So let us start. As a guide, colleagues, let us start by doing this. When you look at business status, you look at these 4 areas. The business environments, the ventures, the roles, and operations. These are the areas that you have in your mind. Remember, in that class of yours, there is a variety. Those high flyers and those struggling ones. So every time when you have to go to class, whether for revision, because I believe most of us we are done with teaching now. So when you go to your class, you must make sure that you do have this in mind and you understand exactly the roles, the operations, the ventures, and the roles. Let's start from this side, the operations. From the operations side, you only have 2 topics, that you have to look at. Meaning, this program mostly is targeting 100% pass. Meaning that even those learners that are struggling must be able to grab those low-hanging marks. That's the main target. So the basic thing, even to you, when you go to your class, make sure that you are able to reach learners with those low-hanging marks. Why am I saying so? This side you've got human resources, and you've also have quality performance, or quality of performance. Two sections, 2 topics. And you do justice here and here. Your learners are covered for question 5, and they are also covered for question 10 and essay. So you need to strategize. Don't just teach openly. Teach according to this categorization of 4 classifications of business studies, and again specialize for your learners to say exactly which area that you want to focus on, which part that you want to your learners to master, meaning those struggling ones and the high flyers. And if you look at this area, both these sets can do very well if you strategize in this fashion. To say, go with human resources, or you say today or this morning, I will be just looking at quality of performance. So you will be covering these 2 questions. And what I've noticed over the years, when you look at this part, to me, that's an easiest part, quality of performance, because it can never be asked in a way where a learner will say, I didn't understand what are the benefits of quality management system. It always be like that. So it's a clear way of asking, and those subtopics for under this topic, they will also give you a guide to say, okay, I start here, then I go to this level, then I go to this level. So every learner, even if it's a struggling learner, if you can just give those listings of points, you are covered. Now, coming to the human resource part. Human resource could be long. Yes, it could be long, but it's easier to master as well. And when you go to question 5, there will be for sure a collection of these 2 in this 60 marks allocation. So drill this part until you know that your learners are perfect with it. Again, when you are going for the paper on the 3rd of September, it will be following this fashion. It's no longer like term 1 and term 2. Now this is a true test of the final exam, the actual exam. So you drill your learner and say, every one of you must be able to write question 5 and question 10. And even if they go home, they know that they can specialize now. It's unlike term 2, as I said, or term 1.
Please put it on silent.
But it must be off. Okay, so recording. Right. So you can now specialize prepare your learners in a way that you know exactly that they will be doing well in terms of question 5 and question 10. Now, let's come to this side.
Is it off?
It's going on.
Okay, give me your phone.
No, it's off. I'm switching it off. Yeah, it's making this long music. Sorry, colleagues. Now, let us come to this side again. Again, when you come here, you are targeting question 3 and you are also targeting question 8. Because, colleagues, we must in teaching strategies. We have to apply strategies also in our teaching. You know your learners. You know how bad or good they do in different sections. But by my standard, again, when you come to ventures, they are very practical. Some of the topics to learners will be a case of saying, oh, I didn't know, because it's a content that is being used on day-to-day basis. It's unlike, let's say, the strategies, if you look at this area, where a learner says, okay, I have to process and understand this one. But this side, they will know investment. So the degree of understanding could be different. And they will know investment. Again, the degree of understanding will be different. So this area, again, when you are targeting low-hanging marks, you have to train it, you have to teach it, and try to even create scenarios where you make them master this part. Which areas are we looking at here? We are looking at management and leadership. We are looking at investment. You are looking at insurance. We are looking at presentation. You are looking at forms of ownership. So these are the 5 topics or chapters that must be dealt in this part. Now, when you go to management and leadership, again you will see it will be just a question of saying how well you present it to a learner. For a learner to be able to quickly say, oh, okay, now I understand what's a leader, now I understand what's a manager. And just create a scenario, then support your scenario with your explanation, so that a learner can deduce that whatever you are explaining is you are more on management or you are on leadership. Right. Again, a learner must be able to differentiate between the two. What's the difference between a leader and a manager? Even a learner that was progressed, colleagues, if you have done justice this side, can be able to differentiate between the two. And those descriptions that we normally use, they are not long sentences where a learner would say must have a polished English to master this part. Very easy short sentences to put forward, and even those struggling learners can be able to give that. Then thereafter, be able now to differentiate again to say, these are management theories and these are management styles. Your autocratic leadership style, your democratic leadership style, bureaucratic, laissez-faire, charismatic. So your learners must be able to know if you are talking about these styles here, these are the styles. The second level, they must be able to, just to give you a short synopsis of it. If you are saying a leader is democratic, what do you mean? This leader is able to take ideas from the subordinates. He allows them to show their own creativity and have input. So this type of a leader uses a bottom-up approach where he takes views from others. Can you see that if a learner is able to explain or give such understanding, a learner will be able to say what is good about this leader, what is bad about this leader, because by giving this narration first, you are able to give to show both sides. I think that's clear, colleagues. Then thereafter, you go to your theories to say, why do we call it a theory versus a style? Because I've just noted, even to us colleagues, in times we fail to understand and differentiate between a theory and a style. Right? I normally say to my learners, when they talk of a style, that's our character. That's how I am. That's how the father at home, that's how the mother at home could be portrayed. Father or mother could be portrayed as highly democratic somebody, understanding, taking the view, or the mother would be an opposite, an autocratic somebody. So that's a character, that's something that you can pinpoint. Now, when you go to theories, it's now going to the next level to say the academics. What is it that you have to research and say, it cannot only stop in these 6 styles. What more can we look at? In other words, we can't be lying by saying, every time will be democratic, every time will be autocratic, every time will be charismatic. Then the academics say, no, there is a next level that one can look at. We are talking about the theories now that are presented by different academics when it comes to this. And you'll see that they keep on adding if we continue doing research on these theories. So those are the differences. For example, a situational leadership theory, meaning you fluctuate with the situation. You look at the situation and say, okay, I'll adapt this type of leadership based on this. So those are the key areas, colleagues, when you have to come to this part. I would be looking at a few topics here. But before I do so, forms of ownership. If we do justice in grade 10, in fact in grade 12, we won't have a challenge. But I know in most cases you find that the teacher is teaching grade 12 doesn't teach grade 10. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that one has to teach in isolation. Integrate, sit down, discuss with a teacher that is teaching grade 10. Because what I've noticed, what tends to be a challenge in grade 12 in terms of, say, a success or failure, if a learner understood well the advantages and disadvantages in grade 10, that would be easy. And I remember a department, our subject advisors even came up with a document for grade 10 that lists all different forms of ownership, up to even the Inc. Personal liability company. They are there. So those documents, if you can use well in grade 10, grade 12, you'll be just saying, because you are just looking now at the success or failure, but using specific criteria. Right. When you look at forms of ownership, colleagues, very simple. Firstly, a learner has to know the characteristics of each, which is grade 10. Number 2, a learner must be able to give us what could be then the advantage of such a form of ownership, advantages. Number 3, it must be then the disadvantages. Number 4, it must be then a success factors. Success versus the failures. Right. When I come to this side, I normally say, you cannot say someone has failed or he has passed without targeting a specific criteria or criterion, if it's just one. You must be saying, there is a success, what are you looking at? There is a failure, what are you looking at specifically? So it means that success or failure will be guided by certain criteria, such as your management, such as liabilities, capacity, legislation. So all those are more like criterion or criteria that can show us a success or show us a failure. Let me repeat, colleagues. Don't teach this part in isolation. You can go with your advantages and disadvantages. It's fine, and they will be very relevant here in terms of success or failure. But at the same time, make it clear to a learner to say, I'm saying a success. What is it that you are looking at? You cannot say, I'm overweight. Overweight based on what? What is it that you are considering? So there must be guiding principles that you are saying that yes, you are overweight if you are above whatever weight has been given. Likewise here, you can't say there is a success or failure. What is it that you are using as a baseline to say this is a success or failure? So those are the criteria that you have to look at. The management, the capacity, taxation, liabilities. So those are the criteria that you have to use. Instead of saying, let us learn about capacity, you will finish next year when you are teaching this content. But if you link it to the form of ownership and say, and let us also look at success, looking at this criteria, management. For example, let's take a sole trader or a sole proprietorship. You are looking at management and you are, as a criterion. You say, okay, in a sole trader, one person manages the business, so it is easier to take decisions. Can you get that, colleague? I make a statement and qualify it. A business is managed by one person, so it will be then easier to take decisions. So teach your learners to qualify their statements or sentences in that fashion, right? On the flip side of things, you can then say what could be then a failure, but using the same criteria. Okay, there is one manager for this business, so this person doesn't have anyone to advise or guide in terms of running the business in a proper way. So can you see that now you are using management in both choices, on the success side and on the failure side. So that makes easier to say, okay, let us move then to the next criterion. Let's say liabilities or say taxation. So it will be easier in that fashion. Let's take taxation for the same form of ownership, sole trade. The business is not registered. For that reason, it cannot pay tax. It doesn't pay tax, meaning that every cent, let's say, the business remains in the business. Nothing goes out, no outflows, because the business does not pay tax, which is a success. But on the flip side of things again, because this business does not pay tax, it is mostly regarded as informal, and therefore it cannot do business with government. Government wants to do things in a way that the government benefits as well. It cannot be just the issue of you getting something out of government, but you're not paying any tax. So can you see that you are balancing things? You are using the same criterion. That's a more or simple way that I can give on this part, colleagues. So only these 4 areas: characteristics, advantages of each form, disadvantages. Right? On success, cannot be just a success based on what? There must be criteria that we are looking at. Then we are talking of success or failure. I want us to look at these, colleagues, still under the same.
I just wanted to say something on that.
Very good.
The previous one, the one that you wrote. You must understand that in the examinations, each of these carries 110 marks, which means that if you master them and you can get like 60 in this and 60 in this, you already gone to 40%. Now, it's very important that you use the exam guidelines. Now, if you follow the textbook rigidly, you'll find that there are certain topics in the textbooks that are not in the exam guidelines and vice versa. You need to follow the exam guidelines because the exam guidelines is used when they set your paper.
Yes, that's right.
Now, when you study these things, like for example, HR, you need to know what is HR and why it's important. It's very, that should be the starting point. You must know it's human resources. You need to ask yourself, of what value is this to me as a person and as a business person?
Yes.
And if you look at it from that perspective, what am I going to learn from this? Then automatically you'll get interested. What's there in HR that is so difficult? Now, for example, learners don't know the meaning of internal. They mix internal and external when it comes to recruitment. Remember, you're taking someone from outside. what impact would it have on the inside? Because you must see people who are on the inside are not getting promoted. They will not feel good. But you bring in new ideas. And if you are looking at promoting from the inside, so it means that you are creating incentives. So people will work much smarter. And you look at all the activities. Remember, learners don't know the meanings of each of those activities. Induction. For example, one year you can get a question on the definition. The other year you can get a question on the process. If you don't know what the procedure means, you're going to give the definition. So you need to understand these things. What's good about internal? What's good about external? What are the advantages? In terms of quality, you must ask yourself, why is this shirt more expensive than the other shirt? What makes this shirt different? They could be made from better quality material, etc.
That's true.
So you find ways. And then that will give you an indication of quality. And then you can develop, these are the specifications, these are what's required to be fulfilled in order for it to be of a certain quality. Then you're looking at what's confusing with these concepts. Quality management is taken from performance because it's business. Quality, that kind of thing. You're looking at quality management. Remember, quality management is from the business. It has to stick to the business. And quality, then you get quality performance. It's based on results. What is produced at the end? You need to know these definitions. And you need to know what's confusing.
Exactly.
That will help you when it comes to these. You must get definitions in the exam. And you're looking at cost. Understand one thing. At the end of the day, when they look at a sample in terms of quality assurance, and they find that it does not, the proportion does not meet the standards, they scrap the entire batch. Where you find the batch? You find it in factory shops at a reduced price. What does that mean? It means that the company is losing. So therefore, if the quality of the product is low, the cost of the production goes up. So you need, if you understand the what and why, etc., you'll be able to understand this better and relate it to yourself. The same thing here, management. What is the biggest difference between management and leadership? Management is by itself manager of the company. So a manager cannot do his own thing. He has to follow the rules and regulations of the company. But here there's more flexibility. The same thing in investment. Remember something, people 30 years ago were very poor. But you must understand, over the years they chose certain investments. And over a 20-year period, they accumulate the increases in the capital and they become rich. So what makes one investment different from the other? Then you look at insurance. Why must we take insurance waste time? Remember, some people don't want to insure the full value because you have to pay high premiums. And what happens when you pay high premiums? So it's more money out of your pocket. So what happens? They don't pay the full value. And therefore you find that they will take a chance and they'll say, okay, I'll insure this thing at 30,000. But the full value is 50. But there has to be some penalty. What's the meaning of that? Then it comes to these definitions, etc., and reinsurance, other insurance, etc. In terms of forms of ownership, this is presentation. Presentation, what is important, you need to know what happens before, during, and after. You need to understand the question. Sometimes the focus is on pre, on post. You need to, what must be done before? Obviously, you need to look at look at the infrastructure. Maybe there's no electricity. Maybe there's no digital stuff, etc. So how can you have a PowerPoint at a center or a place where they don't have the necessary tools? That kind of thing. And forms of ownership. Remember, if you don't know what the meaning of characteristics is, you waste your time. Because the characteristics helps us to know what makes one form of ownership different from the other. So the question may not come out as characteristics. What makes this form of ownership different from the other? So you remember, advantages are positives. What makes it work? And you must know why. So that will be the success. Remember, there are different success factors. If we don't know and you cannot recall the success factors, you cannot talk about success or failure. And you can form a mnemonic like Mary took car for motor car license. And Mary is management. Took is taxation. So immediately you can recall and then you can apply that to success and failure. And you will use information from here to help and give it flesh. So you can have more constructive comments so that it makes marking easier. Remember, the challenge we face in business studies is that learners write in such a way it doesn't make sense to the marker. And if it doesn't make sense to the marker, what will happen? They'll mark it wrong.
Exactly.
So we need to make sure, and at the end of the day, you need to understand two cornerstones. You need to talk and listen to what you know. And you need to write and see whether you answered it correctly.
That's true.
You need to listen to yourself and see what you know. These are important things that you need to know. Business studies is not business economics. Business studies, 70% requires application. And it's not always the case that what you have learned from whatever source, right, can be used directly. You need to understand the question, interpret it, and link what you learned to that. So these are little things that you need to take care of and understand at the end of the day, what you write must make sense to the marker and it must answer the question.
Colleagues, that was our wise guru, Seth, the Subject Advisor, Business Studies, Umlazi District. So every time we cannot just set aside those words of wisdom and experience. Thank you, Seth. Colleagues, the main emphasis that I will put forward in this, use your examination guideline, as Seth was saying. Don't dwell much on a textbook, because textbook, I've seen that they, in terms they miss a content for some reasons. I don't know why. So just have your exam guide every time, or even when you are going for your revision, or even checking your past exam papers. Put your exam paper on the side, then have your exam guide. Then you keep on ticking, okay, they've examined this content, Oh, this content for the past 2 years now has been examined. For that reason, it is a guide that this year, 2019, this content could be part of the essay, or it could be part of the section B, 60 marks. So use that guide, your exam guideline, to do a lot of stuff. Right. Let's move to this part, colleagues. I want us to look at this, which is still part of the business ventures. That I said, if you master them well, you won't have any problem. I want to pass here and come to this. Come on. And come to this level. I want us to come to this level. Right. It normally looks as a huge topic, but as Seth has just said now, teach it in the way that learners, they see a need for this topic. Make it sure that it's not a foreign thing. In fact, Africans, white or yellow, green, all as communities, we have practiced our own type of investment. It's just that it could be in a small scale or deemed to be informal, but to us it's been formal. So make sense to your learners to say, why are we investing? Before shooting to those subtopics as exam guideline states, make them see the need. In fact, when you ask a learner, why do people invest? They must be able to give you like this. Whether with that shaky English, because we teach the second language speakers and the third language, or even the 10th language speakers if there is such a scenario or situation. But they must be able to give you the reason why you have to look at the investment. So start with the knowns. You scaffold it in a way that it becomes a bit difficult when they go to the next level. But start on the simple stuff. In our homes, when we were growing up, even in some homes, even now, there was something called iskokokoko, where you just throw in 1 rand, the 2 rands, all those coins. It's a way of investing, because you are saying to yourself, let me have a way of putting aside a certain portion of my money. Though, if you look at return on investment, cannot have a direct ROI, return on investment. There can be no direct return on investment. But setting aside a certain amount, it puts you to the next level as a person. So that's a starting point. Make an understanding, make them see why do they need or why do they have to look at this thing called investment. But if you just come to class and you make it very formal, you'll be talking alone, and they won't be involving themselves. You blame them? No, because it is pitched on the level that is higher than their understanding. So make sure every time that if you introduce a topic, make it a bit practical. I said to you, ventures by nature, they are very practical. It's just that to learners we are adding some spices that they didn't understand and knew before. Right, here is an exam guideline. It says outline, describe, explain, discuss the function of JSA. Colleagues, you see, this is a question. This is a question. We call those cognitive verbs. In your class, play around with these cognitive verbs. Don't make your learners being surprised with the, such verbs when they are writing task or exam. Just play with them, because if this year the question was outline the functions of JSE, I'm telling you right now, come end of the year, there can't be no such a question. But they will introduce another cognitive verb by saying, explain or discuss or describe the functions of JSE. I think you get that, colleagues. Try to play with these cognitive verbs when you are teaching, so that they are exposed. They understand exactly what you are talking about. Right? The next part is saying that explain the range of available business investment opportunities. Meaning, there are lots of opportunities that are there when you want to invest. There are lots of opportunities. But now, you can either decide to go this route, or 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 to come here, or you come here, or you come here. So these are all the opportunities. Then that can make you a better person next time, richer than before. So these are the areas that you have to look at. And I know if you are talking about mostly Africans, they would say cows was their investment. And when even they negotiate lobola processes, they will look at such understanding to say it must be cows. Colleagues, don't throw away such understanding. Don't throw that away, because that's where you start. That's where you build, mostly if you are in areas where you don't have lots of exposures in terms of infrastructure, in terms of resources that can be used. So don't throw away that such a thinking to say that was their thinking in those olden days, to say, indeed, if you've got 50 cows compared to someone having 500 cows, you are richer. In a way, you are better in terms of investment. We are having negotiating some lobola processes, you will be richer than before. So those are the understanding that we have. So you can start from that situation, then you grow in introducing formal stuff like this one. This is a guide as per exam guideline. Again, the exam guideline, it says you cannot just look at the opportunity, investment opportunity. Introduce this part now. What is the risk? What is the catch? You have told me about shares. What is the cash that is there? You have told me about unit trust. What is a cash in there? You have told me about a 32 days notice. What could be a risk factor? Because a risk that what affects our investments. So you must be able also to tell them upfront to say, come up with an investment opportunity. What is good about it? What is bad about it? then the risk factor. Four areas that must be covered when you are teaching this part or when you are revising. And remember, colleagues, even if you use your past exam papers, make sure that you look at these areas. It must be an investment opportunity. A learner is able to explain it. A learner is able to show the advantages, what is good about it, and what is bad about it. And a learner must be able to introduce a risk factor involved with that type of investment. So you cannot just, let's say you use 2017 paper, it didn't have the risk factors, or it didn't have the advantages of those investment opportunities. So you keep on like recycling the same thing. Try to create a variety, meaning you can also come up with your own questions. Just sit down, even just 5, not a lot, just 5. Present those 2016, 2017, or 2017, 2018. From them, you can come up with your short questions in terms of this guidance, in terms of looking at your exam guidance. Okay, this content, I can tell right now, there are areas that have never been examined before. Right. The next part is what I was looking at, the positives and the negatives. The positives and the negatives. Of each form of ownership. What is good about the form of ownership? What can we say is bad about that form of ownership? Right. Let's come then to what I've just said now. These are cognitive verbs. I normally say to colleagues, if you don't throw this in your lesson plan, you cannot expect a learner to be thinking in this level. But all your lessons or your teachings are here. It's like to say to a learner must run a complete marathon from Durban to Pietermaritzburg, but every time you make that learner run in a soccer field, rounding several times. That's not fair, because a soccer ground or field doesn't have steep hills and the slopes, doesn't have. So when you are teaching as well, expose your learner to this, and you will see it goes a long way in terms of making that learner understand. So, these are higher order type of questions. Even the way you do your ticks. Remember that in BS we've got these ticks. This will be 2 marks. And we've got also a tick of this nature. It will be also 2 marks. But that is guided by the cognitive verb that's been used. So you acquaint yourself with those cognitive verbs. It's very, very important. You also know, before you even look at the memo, the marking guideline, to say if the cognitive verb that's being used is this one, for example, outline, you must know, suggest, you know exactly that, ticks must be in twins. I normally call them twins, the ones that they go together. So you must know that as well as an educator, so that you can quickly tell, this memo is not right. They have spread the ticks in that fashion. So it doesn't help only the learner. Also you as an educator, you know exactly that, all right, the way ticks will go. For example, here it will be split, discuss, it will be split ticks. Recommend, there will be ticks like this one. So you expose yourself in such thinking as well. Right, let's come. Sense.
Yeah.
Come in.
Distinguish. Now you must understand what distinguish, it can come out in different ways. Sometimes they can say differentiate, that means you distinguish it. When you're looking at compare, when you use compare, you have to use a table. When you say boy here, which is gender, the right hand side must be gender. You cannot say something different. It must be the same thing. Now when it comes to discuss and explain, remember you first have to recall what you have learned that is related to the question. And then you need, in the case of discuss and explain, you need to show understanding. Whereas in the case of evaluate, for example, there's nothing sophisticated about evaluate. In the case of evaluate, what are you doing? You are asking yourself, is it working? And in order to know whether it's working, you need to have an idea of what's positive or what's negative.
Exactly.
What have you learned that will help you to answer this? It is the advantages for positive and disadvantages for negative. So you always ask yourself, what have I learned that I could apply to this? Do not get frightened by these cognitive verbs.
That's true.
If you understand it, it becomes easy. In the case of recommend, now recommend can be two ways. One, you can recommend based on the challenges in the case study, which is related to the scenario or case study. The other one, you can use information that you have learned to apply it as a recommendation. For example, if the company has got a 80% men and 20% women, and is based on the Equity Act, what if they say recommend, you will use from information from, for example, compliance and penalties as recommendations.
Yeah, that's true.
So you need to know what to do with the information. So these things are not difficult. You must not panic. If you understand these verbs, then you'll be able to answer in a way that will make sense to the market. Okay.
Excellent. I love the way you note this side. So, colleagues, can you see why recommend is in high order? Because one way a learner must be able to process, to say, am I giving anything from a scenario or a case study? Or I have to use the content that I learned in term 1 or term 2 to recommend, to strategize, whatever that must be working for this situation. So you can see why are we looking at those recommend, evaluate as high order type of cognitive verbs. Evaluation, is it working? Is it working? Looking at both sides, the good sides, advantages, and the disadvantages, the bad sides. So that's why they fall here on high order type of cognitive verbs. Okay, let's move on, colleagues. We now come to terms and definitions. So can you see that we are taking it step by step? Prepare ourselves to say there is this content, investment opportunities. Then from those opportunities, questioning can either in lower order, middle order, or high order. We prepare ourselves for that. What is regarded as lower order, what is regarded as middle order, what is regarded as high order. Now thereafter, let's come to terminologies. Every section, every subject has got its own special terms that one has to be able to master. If you are doing economics, there will be special terms for economics, and even under economics, there will be specific content that's being covered. That's what we are doing here. So we are looking at the content under these investments. Now, JSE, Johannesburg Security Exchange. Look what sections or questions in section B. What does JSE stand for? So learners must be able to understand such simple stuff. If one talk of a share, what do you mean? What is a share? What is a content under a share? What must I understand? A share. Someone's got shares. It's got shares in a certain company. It's got shares. What's the meaning of it? And colleagues, don't go to the level of academics. Start from their level. What do you understand when we say someone's got shares in a certain company? You'll get all these funny stories so that will make you laugh. But at the end, you are able to wipe out whatever that they had in understanding to say a share should be meaning this. So in shares, we are looking at to have a part of ownership in a company. I've got my section in percentage that I'm owning in a certain company. That is a share, my certain portion, my piece in this cake, my piece that I'm having. That we call it a share. Capital market or securities, short-term investment, long-term investment, make them acquainted to that. Simple interest, compound interest, the risks. What is a risk? They must be also familiar with that. content. Here we are. Remember that in our exam guideline, the exam guideline looked at JSE and it said under JSE we have to know the functions. Not to say what makes up JSE. There won't be such a question because the exam guideline only looks at functions. That's why in times you look at the paper after learners have written it and you say, this question was unfair because they went beyond the exam guideline. But in this case, it's simple. These are the pointers that will be must be given by learners. But colleagues, what I've noticed here, when you teach content under JSE, make sure first you make them understand what is JSE. Okay, JSE is the Johannesburg Securities Exchange. It's like a market where different shares and debentures are being sold. If we're talking about veggies and fruits, we would say it's where potato economic fruits in simple terms. Laughter is economic fruits. But in this case, you're looking at shares. So make them understand first what are you talking about. Because if you just talk of JSE as an isolated content, you'll be just swimming alone. They don't understand what you're talking about. So firstly introduce the explanation before you come to the functions. When you come to functions, they'll say, yes, it makes sense. But if you just shoot to the content and we explain just alone, flowing alone, root learning, they don't understand. Even if you say it's a barometer of economic conditions, it's, what do you mean? But if you allow them to take part, I know they will give us lots of points that will say this is irrelevant. But at the same time, there will be facts that you'll be able to channel to whatever that they said. So it's easier in that fashion. So these are the pointers that we are going to look at when we are looking at the functions of JSE. Now, quickly, after that, it must investment opportunities. We have just touched on them above when we were just looking at the exam guideline to say the framework of the exam guideline is looking at these opportunities for grade 12. There could be more, but for grade 12 content, we are looking at these ones that are being stated at the exam guideline. Which are those ones? Right? We are looking at this. RSA retail savings bonds, fixed property, unit trust, shares, fixed deposit, debentures, mutual funds, or Dakis or Africans, they would just know it as stokvel. Stokvels, managed portfolio, called deposit, retirement annuities. These are all the opportunities that we can use for investment. Right. At the same time, colleagues, as I said earlier, they must be able to explain what is a unit trust. Unit trust. Unit. We are operating as a unit. We create a pool of funds that can be then used to buy shares from different companies. And because we are not highly educated in terms of saying which shares are good for us, which shares are not good, these unit trusts are managed by a unit trust manager who will be doing all the processes for us, the buying and selling of our shares. At the same time, we are now able to afford shares that we were not able to afford if we were going individually. Now, we are going as a unit. We are able to afford those shares. So, can you see now we have given them the base, the understanding? Coming to the advantages and disadvantages, they will tell you. Because your part was to start explaining first what are the unit trusts. So when it comes to advantages, you say, okay, one of the advantages that was there on the explanation of unit trust was that it is managed by a unit trust manager that is highly experienced in terms of buying and selling shares. That's an advantage. A disadvantage of the same thing though is that unit trust managers, they don't come cheap. They need to be paid a certain percentage from our own money that we have to pay a certain percentage. So this is disadvantage now because they need to be paid. So can you see that you make an explanation, then thereafter they are able to give you the negative and the positive. Colleagues, cut against giving your learners the content as it is. They will forget that whatever that you're giving, number one. That's how we all operate, not that because they are dumb and stupid. If you are giving something without mate involved, you will forget whatever that was being said. So every time, which I've seen working, allow them to come with whatever content is time consuming, I understand. But I normally say it's better to have time taken expressed in hours than to, but having learners that are understanding, than having, let's say 20-30 minutes, we have taught 3 pages, but a learner can't even say a word out of that. It's a waste of time. So the way that I normally teach these areas, I involve learners. It takes time, I do understand, but it helps you a lot to say, whatever that I've covered, whatever that I've presented is well understood. So allow them to have those opportunities. Shares, likewise, use the same approach. Put it there, right? Then you give them an explanation. What? It shows a level of ownership, a percentage ownership by individual in a company or in a business. 1. 2, there are different types of shares, but mostly we concentrate in 2 for grade 12, the preference shares and the ordinary shares. Give them that such a content, right? Preference shares, they've got a preferential right, preference, given first choice, first preference. So give them that understanding. Then there is a next part, ordinary shares, ordinary. If we say someone is ordinary J, is nothing special about that, such a person, nothing that can be pointed out and say, hey, this character, this character, this character, make this person unique. Ordinary shares, they don't have any special right. They don't have any special thing that can be pinpointed and said, But on preference shares, there will be a special right. And that special right will be expressed in percentages. For example, a 10% fixed receivable by a preference shareholder. It's standard, it stands there. It must be stated on these shares. Ordinary shares, dividends, they just keep on fluctuating because they are not fixed. Meaning they depend mostly on profit. If profit is high, there will be more dividends. If profit is low or nothing, there will be no dividends. So they start to process now. Oh, there is something that is good about preference shares, and there is something good about also about ordinary shares. Can you see that, colleagues? We are not there as yet. But when you ask that part, they will be able to give you. Though it won't be like an educated type of a view, it will be a learner's view, but we are able to integrate with whatever you are going to say quickly after that. Right. This is what I was just saying, though I didn't cover the debentures and fixed deposit. I want us to look at this part, types of shares. Here are the types. We've got 1, we've got 2. Remember, we said earlier, but we are just giving the overview of saying this should be make-up shares. But then would be required to go on specifications to say what do we mean by this. Then also we have got number 3 here. We've got number 4 here. So when we talk of types of shares, there are 4 types. We've got your preference shares, you've got your ordinary shares, you've got your founder shares, you've got your bonus shares. Right. Learners must be able to explain these types. Why is so important to explain? In section B, there will be scenarios in times where they will give a definition. A learner has to come up with a term or a type of a share of shares. So it must be, your learners must be able to give just a short narration of say, if I talk of bonus shares, what is it exactly that I'm talking about? If I'm talking of founder shares, what is it that we're talking about? But colleagues, what is so good about this is that the name itself explains this type of share. The name itself, if I'm saying bonus shares, then we ask learners, what is a bonus? I'll say, well, there is something that is being added on beyond or beside whatever that you were supposed to get. It's a bonus. It's a bonus. Or if you're looking at salary, it's just more than the normal salary that you receive on a monthly basis. That's a bonus. Right? In this context now, bonus shares are the shares that are given to shareholders for one reason, that the previous year there were no dividends declared. There was no profit. Now, to compensate them, because shareholders can jump from one company to the next, they can quit your business. Now, if you give them bonus shares, though you didn't declare any dividends, but they just feel, oh, right, I am better in terms of percentages now than last year or than last month. So I did get something, though it's not on financial terms as we speak now. So bonus shares are shares that are issued to current shareholders when the business didn't declare or didn't issue any dividends the previous year. So you keep them, you want to keep them within your business. So you issue them the bonus shares. Right? The next one, the founder shares. Founder. Whoever starts as something, we call that person a founder. Who's the founder of Kaiser Chiefs? Most of you talk of to black kids, soccer is a daily thing. Who's the founder of Kaiser Chiefs? I said, oh, Kaiser Chiefs. It's got his name. It's Kaiser Mudaung. Oh, so Kaiser Mudaung is a founder of Kaiser Chiefs. Now, if you talk of founder shares, those are the shares that are issued to those individuals that founded the organization. To say you guys had to sweat for some years, using even your own money to start this business. So we are giving these shares to you as the founder of this business, as whoever that number of individuals that had to sweat, come up with this business. Till now we are just enjoying everything now, but some people back in the years, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they used to sweat for the same business. So we call those founders shares, issued to founders only, not as bonus, to founders. Now we come to number 2, preference shares. As I said, shares are the shares that got a preferential right treatment. You've got these shares. You are treated like a king. You are specially bid. You've got preference. What preference? Meaning, if a business goes under, or if a business is liquidated, if a business, in our language we normally say so. These are the people that will be paid first. Preferential. They are preferred to say, should anything happen, they are the first one to be paid. So that's why you say preference shares. They've got the preference right, a special right. If a business is liquidated or it becomes insolvent, that it cannot continue to operate anymore, then sheriff of the court can say, okay, everyone will use stop. Then the first people that need to be paid are the preferential holders. Then the next creditors could be then on the queue to be paid. Then ordinary shareholders, they are ordinary. They won't get anything. Why these people are getting their proportion. So these ones, the ordinary shareholders, they will get whatever that's left after the preferential shareholders have been receive whatever that they have to receive. And also, what is good about ordinary share? Or let me add this on preference shares. Preference shares, normally they've got a fixed percentage. They've got a fixed percentage. E.g., let's say 10% receivable. 10%, fixed percentage. Meaning whether a business has made a loss, they have to be guaranteed of their 10%. Nothing can be expressed in other form or shape. They've got that preferential claim of 10%. One clever learner once asked me, if you say 10% is a benefit, you mean these people, if a business goes under, become insolvent, they will claim 10%. And then I said, yes. I didn't understand where was this thing leading to. I said, okay, very good. It sounds clear. 10% is what they've got to claim. But on the other side, then the learner said, if you take 10%, it means 90% is enjoyed somewhere. And I said, yes. He said, then can't you see that there is a disadvantage in that you are just fixing the 10%. Irrespective whether a business is making a lot of profit, you are just stuck with that 10%. I said, okay, this is a clever one. Remember in those classes, we've got learners that have got the highest IQ in those classes. Then I said, okay, let us use that in this side as a benefit to ordinary shares, to say there is no fixed rate. Their dividends can be high or low based on whatever is being made as profit. So it's an advantage on the other side. So I normally say to my learners, if you know this part, for sure, you must be able to say something this side. Because they are more or less like opposites. Teach them in the thinking. They are more like opposites. If you know that there is a fixed percentage that is receivable on the fixed preference shares, coming this side, you can say, oh, there is no fixed percentage. I receive the highest amount based on the profit that's being made. So those are the key areas, colleagues, that one have to look at. So you come here, look at the differences. Your learners will be hitting like this because you started with the explanation. You started to give them flesh. Now if you say unpack this flesh, they will be able to do so. But if you just keep on showing them number 2, number 3, then you go to number 10 alone or number 5 alone. But you give them an understanding, you make them involved from that, it works. It works very well. Right. These are the differences, as I said earlier. And remember, we are not just showing this content as we feel like doing so. This is the exam guideline, meaning that it's very possible to have this area as the question 3 or question 8, bullet number 2 or number 3. So that's highly possible. Why am I saying so? This was taken as it is from the exam guideline. That's why I emphasize earlier the part of saying, don't concentrate much on the textbook, colleagues. Use your exam guideline. So we are very sure of this. Now, the next part. If someone has got preference shares, I've got preference shares. I've got that preferential right or preferential claim on the asset of the business. What could be my rights then? I must have certain rights. I am owning these preference shares. I must have some rights that I would say exactly this is what I have to say as a person. I've got this, I've got that, I've got that. That's my rights. Here they are. Rights to preference shareholders, they enjoy preferential rights to dividends, meaning they are paid first. Preferential right, they are paid first. That's their right. They can't be number last. They can't be number last. They must be the first one. They must be the first ones. They must be on the starting point. They must be the first one to get whatever is left, even if the business is struggling or is liquidated. They have to be the first one to get something. Right? The next part, they receive a fixed rate of dividend. Hey, and we discussed that above. So you can see that doing a proper explanation covers you on the comparisons between preference shares and preference shares. It also covers you when you're looking at the rights. We have said that they receive a fixed rate of dividends. That's their right. And you cannot compromise to say you promise them 10%, but you come back after some time scratching your head and say, no, now we have to get 5%. No, it's their right. It's their right. They have to get whatever that you promise, or 10% that you promise. Right. And they also receive interim and annual reports, interim, short-term, and the annual reports to say how is the business performing. Is the business, in terms of annual financial statements, what are they showing? Any positive indications that the business will be doing well or doing badly, they receive those reports as well. Right? The next part, they've got a preferred claim on the company asset in the event of bankruptcy or liquidation. Hey, we touched on that one again. So these rights are very simple, colleagues. If we do justice on the first part, rights would be like this, and will be given by learners themselves. Right. And the investment concepts, terms that you have to understand, teach in class, make them play with these terms. Simple interest, what is that? Compound interest, capital gain. Make them understand those terms. You make them play with those terms. Try to confuse them in times, and they will say, "Sir, that's, oh ma'am, that's not right. The proper term should be this one, because you introduce the exposure to these terms. For example, this and this, they can be close to a learner that doesn't understand. But as soon as you demonstrate, a learner will understand. Oh, simple. Compound, together. Compound. Oh, this one just singing. Simple, singing. So all those calculations are done on the single amount that was invested as a principal amount. So just based on that, compound, it will be the principal amount plus whatever returns that are being made, they are brought together, added on. Now it becomes compound, bigger. So play with those terms in such a way that learners understand and say, oh yes, now we do understand. Right. Investment side. Factors to be considered when making an investment decision. This part, colleagues, again, make learners understand what you are saying. When you taught them, one, there are investment opportunities. There are investment opportunities. Right. Firstly, you told them that there are investment opportunities. Investment opportunities. That's what you told them, right? Then you came back and said, two, but before you look at that, you must be sure that there are risk factors. There are risk factors. All right. There are risk factors that quickly follow. All right. Now you are saying to them, three, what we are saying to them is that there are factors to consider when making investment. When making investment. Alright. This tells us now to say, is an opportunity? Well, that's fine. We are happy. The investment opportunity. What is the catch? Well, the risk is high, the risk is moderate, the risk is low. That's very clear. You can't just grab an opportunity and say this is a perfect one. Come to the risk factors. Quickly then thereafter, I can't look at the risk only. There should be then several factors that one has to look at. Factors that I have to put into a certain basket beside the risk to say what more is there that can make this investment a challenge or a success. So we call those all of the factors that you have to consider. In other words, you don't invest with your eyes closed or using your heart, not your brain. You have to use this side, not this side. Because you might lose your investment because you didn't look at these factors. So that's what we are talking about here, colleagues. What are those factors then? The first part will be this one, ROI. We normally refer to this as ROI, which is return on investment. How does it become a factor? That should be a question. Let's move on a bit. The next factor that I have to look at is the risk. The same risk factor that I looked at. It's not enough to know the risk. I have to also unpack the part of ROI, return on investment. So I have to look at this again. Right. Then thereafter, I have to look at the liquidity. Okay. Then taxation, inflation rate, period of investment, the budget. There are many more that you can look at. But colleagues, here's a crunch part. Your learners must be able to list these as factors. Again, they must be able to explain how can it become a factor that will affect your investment. Because the subtopic or the heading that you are looking at are the factors that affect the investment opportunities. Now, the question is, you cannot just list. Tell a person that doesn't understand, that's not doing business studies, person that is from science, to say, how can it become a risk factor? How can it become a risk factor? Listing by its own is not enough. It's fine, yes, you understand, but listing is not enough. Now you start to say, all right, liquidity, right? Liquidity. From the word liquid. Okay. In normal cases, when our fridges, we've got a power failure somewhere or load shedding, you'll see water oozing out of the fridge, meaning that an ice is converted into water. That's a science understanding or a normal day-to-day understanding. How do we introduce that to business studies now? We say, oh, it is the rate, the speed. I convert this thing that I'm selling, these smart pens that I'm selling, the rate at which I convert this into cash. Remember, I mean, I'm not interested in this. I'm interested to cash. That's a basic thing. In times we tend to say quality this, quality that. Yes, it's fine so that I can set a higher price. But I'm interested to money, not this. So the rate at which I convert this asset that I'm selling into cash, that is liquidity. If it takes long to have this 100 rand after selling this, this is not a nice investment. It's not proper. But those a good investment is where I will be able to sell a lot of these, and I have more of these. That's a good investment. That's a good investment because it can easily be converted into cash. Good example: property or a house. I've seen houses, or your learners have seen houses that are being. They only have that a for sale sign that will last for 6 months, and you are still waiting for your house to be sold. In other words, hey, investment in houses is good because every time a house will mostly appreciate, value going up. But there is a catch. When you want to convert it into cash, it takes long liquidity. So in times it cannot be good to invest in property, because if you make money as of now, it's a challenge. A 32 days notice account also is a problem, because before you have your money, you have to give a notice of 32 days, meaning that you will be starving somewhere if you need the money to sort yourself. Or if you need it for other assets, you are stuck now, you cannot buy other stuff because your money is still in that 32 days notice. And they tell you up front, should you want us to break that, there is a penalty. So illiquidity, that's what we are talking about. So they must understand liquidity is the rate which we convert our investments into cash. Take a case of shares. You can sell your shares now, it's around 1. By 2:30, they could be purchased. Done, you've got your money in your account. So shares are highly liquid. So that's an understanding that you have to put forward. The risk we are looking at the part or the chance of not getting your whole investment as you thought you would be getting. So in your investment opportunity, look at the chance that investment amount may reduce in value. You invested 100,000. What are the possibilities that I can get this investment after 6 months, but less than the capital amount that I invested? We call that a risk. Even if you buy stock, buying stock is investment. What are the chances that your employees can steal the same stock? That's a risk. Right. The next part is return on investment. Right. Return on investment, I normally do it in this fashion, colleagues. Return on investment, which is, I'll abbreviate it as ROI. It will be the return that you have made divided by capital invested. Capital invested. What do I mean? If I have invested, capital invested, 100 rands, that's the capital that I invested, and I've managed to get 20 rands. I've managed to get 20 rands. What could be then ROI, return on investment? Return on investment will be like 1/5, which is more like 20%. 20%. Hey, this tells me a lot. It means when I invest my 100 rand, what will be receivable will be 20%. it sounds like a good investment. Remember, when you invest, one of the factors that you have to look at is the inflation rate. In South Africa, we have never had an inflation rate that's more than 8%. So now if you get a return of 20%, it's more like you will be enjoying 12% without the effect of the inflation, or even 14% without the inflation, because I believe currently the inflation rate is around 5.2% or 4.8%. So a return of 20% can make you decide to say, I'll go for this investment. Again, this percentage can make you say, this is not the right investment. So return on investment is very important. And again, colleagues, it is always in percentages. It cannot be expressed mostly in lines. Okay, you can see that we work and get the percentage that is a return to us. So it is a return on whatever that we invested, return on investment. So we call it ROI. So that's how also we have to look at this factor on return on investment. All this, also the taxation. When someone say invest in his or her company, the first thing that must come to your mind, what is this type of investment is tax deductible or not? Because you have to know upfront to say, if it's tax, what would be the percentage of tax? Exactly as you did with the inflation rate. What is the tax percentage that I have to pay? That will make your decision to be easier. So can you see that it's not just a mere listing of these factors, but we are able to explain them and give a guide and directive and say, oh, a learner can be able to explain it in this spreadsheet. I hope you get it, colleagues. Right. The next part will be then calculations. But before we get to calculations, let's start with this part. Let's start with these parts. We have to be able to differentiate between the two. And you see, when you make a clear distinction between the two, it will be easier for your learners. It will be easier for your learners to do calculations. And they can support themselves to say, for example, why an answer from this side will be smaller than an answer from this side. Remember, colleagues, we are not doing mathematics. In mathematics, they are interested in numbers. In business studies or financial management, we are interested in numbers, yes, plus interpretation. So it's more like accounting. You cannot just say, if it's insurance, and say, well, the claim will be 1,000 or 100,000. What does it mean? Was that an over-insurance or under-insurance? So we interpret in business studies, exactly like we do in accounting. In accounting, they do those liquidity ratios, and they interpret them. It's all about interpretation. It's not just give content as it is. We are not doing maths. So it must be very clear from the onset. Right. The first part that makes us know that this is simple interest, it is calculated on the original amount invested. I normally add this part only. It is calculated on the original or principal amount only. No additions from the past, no. It is calculated on the original amount only. Let me make an example again. If I invest this 100 rand, I'm using this side, 100 rand, in year one. It means in year one, I will calculate using this 100 rand. In year two, I will be using this 100 rand. Year three, so it's easier in that fashion, like more like straight line method. Those who are acquainted with accounting depreciations, just straightforward, no other additions. But you come this side, it will be the original amount that is being looked at on the original amount, but including now, adding the accumulated interest from the previous years. So this side is just only principal amount. This side, it will be principal amount plus interest earned from the previous years. So that's why we don't use only this side. We use only on the other side because we look at the capital amount only. This side will be the principal amount or capital amount plus the interest that has been accumulated the previous years. So that's a different. Number two, accumulated interest from prior period is not used. Now you see, we are making the opposite of this. This side we added on, this side not used. Can you see that if you use that thinking for your learners, they can easily remember that. Oh, this side I said only, this side I said principal plus. When I come back and say number two, I have to also indicate the opposite of this. Because earlier I was showing the opposite of these two. Now I'm using the same content, I'm showing the opposite of this. Say, prior period, accumulated interest from prior period is not used, while it was used above. This side, accumulated interest from prior period is used. So, can you see that you are just playing with those contents and a learner can be able to remember? Right, let's come to calculations. Firstly, formula is very important. And in business studies, there will be mostly, or let me say usually, a mark for a correct formula. A mark or two that is allocated for the formula. This side, it will be interest receivable times P, principal amount, times the rate receivable, interest rate receivable, times the time, T. So it is more like this when you look at the formula. For simple interest, simple interest, it will be P times I times I. That's it. Or it can be expressed as R and T in this R, and you make this type to make it simple for all of us. Make it T. The principal amount times number of years times the rate that is being given. You'll get your answer. If it's you have invested 100,000, or let me make it simple, 100 rands over 2 years times the rate 10%, which is more like 10 over 100. 2 times 10, this will give you 20 rands. So that's your return in simple interest. This was year 1. Year 1. Year 2, clear, it will be the same amount because we said it's not added on here. It's not added on here. Year 2, 20 rands. Year 3, same thing. But when you come to the other side, now a little bit of mathematics is needed because there is an exponent now, P into 1 plus R all raised by N minus P. You'll be using. Again, substitute will be the same. It just be the issue of a calculator this side to say how good you are in terms of using a calculator. But colleagues, I normally say this side we are very covered as business study teachers. Why? Because they do the same thing in calculations in maths lit, they do the same calculation in pure maths, financial maths. They do the same thing. It's that in times I've seen them, they are using a bit complicated formulas to do their calculations. Emphasize on this that we know and very simple for everyone. So at the end, you'll find that the answer for this side will be smaller than the answer for compound interest. Why? Because the interest from previous years is added on this side, but this side just counted on the capital amount only. Colleagues, I believe you have enjoyed this, and I've looked also at this calculation. We've got Caleb and we've got Rayleigh. Both have invested 100,000, right? And the rate is 8.5% for 2 years. So can you see that we do have P is equals to 100,000. We do have N is equals to 2 years. 2 years. Also, we do have the rate R of 8.5%. 1, 2, 3. So we can start doing our calculations now. Yes, we can do our calculations. And from our calculations, can you see what the rate is at compound while Caleb is at simple interest? For sure, the return by Caleb on simple interest would be less than for Rayleigh at compound interest. It's given, and the learner must be able to give reasons. Look at the calculation there. For 3.1, got 4 marks. 3.12, calculate the interest on release received in 2 years. It's simple start. Identify the better investment option and motivate the answer. So, can you see that we are using now the previous content to support ourselves in calculation? As I said, it is not just the answer that is very important here. It also shows the understanding to say why compound is bigger than the simple. So, that's it, colleagues, from this side. Back to where we started. You remember that I said you are here. You are here. Can you see we have touched base on management and leadership? 1. 2, we have touched base on investment. We touched on presentation by Seth, where Seth said 3 areas that are very important: pre, during, post the feedback. Now you can quickly then analyze the material that you are using to say, if I'm using PowerPoint, what is good about PowerPoint, what is bad about PowerPoint, right? Then the next part was forms of ownership that Seth again talked of and said, emphasize from the facts from grade 10, and your job will be easier in grade 12. I also said, when you're looking at forms of ownership, do your successes and failure, but you have to link it to your criteria, your management, your capacity, your taxation, legislation, liabilities. Those are your criteria that are determining your forms of ownership. Number 5, and the last one this side, is insurance. Is insurance. Right? Under insurance, again, what is very key on the insurance are these parts. From your insurance, our exam guideline requires us this. Firstly, one has to be able to differentiate between insurance and assurance. Colleagues, these are easy facts. In fact, a learner that was having a teacher in front of him or her for some time, in times it is very embarrassing for a learner to fail to differentiate this. I know colleagues that can never be pushing every blame to you or to us. But at the same time, there are contents that we feel that every learner must be able to talk about, to say something. Sounds very close, but highly different. Insurance, you are covering a risk that may or may not occur. That's a basic part. If you are taking insurance, you are telling a person to say, whatever that I'm covering, it might happen or may not happen. That's the first part. On the side, if you make a table of this form, you are covering something that may happen or may not occur. This side, you are covering something that will definitely occur. It is just that the time and date is not known. But whatever you are covering this side will definitely occur. This side, it might or may not occur. For example, we are talking of a car insurance or a house insurance. When you are insuring your car, it might happen that nothing will happen to it until you sell it after 2 or 3 years. You never claimed. Indeed, it's the nature of insurance because you are covering something that might or may not occur. But this side, the example, let's say it's a life insurance. You are covering your life or somebody's life. You are covering something that will definitely occur. It is just that you are not sure when can it occur or happen. I normally say to them to provoke their thinking or even their arguments. I would say when I look at the assurance, say, you see in front of me here, I'm seeing lots of coffins in front of me, including the one that is talking. And then they will start making noise. And I would say, yes, that's an assurance. If you cover your life, you are telling the insurer that at some stage I know that I will die. So if I die, I need money available for my family, my kids or whoever that's remaining. So that's an assurance because you are covering something that will really occur. It's just that the time and date is not known. This side is covering something that you don't know. Right. When it comes to, again, at the insurance, the next difference between the two, the insurance is following a principle of indemnity or indemnity principle. Oh, indemnity principle. Yes, we've got 4 principles that we have to teach in those classes. One of them is this indemnity principle. Indemnity principle. So all the insurances, they go with this principle, indemnity principle. This side, what is applicable as a principle is security principle. Security principle. And these principles are highly different. It's indemnity principle, and this side is a security principle. Security. You are covering yourself. Should anything happen, someone will pay. Security. It's got a security of some sort. This side is not a payment per se, but is to put the insured to the same original position as he or she was before. Yeah. Security, there would be payment in financial terms, security principle. This side, we are not, the insurance is not giving you cash, but it says, how can we bring you back into the original position as it was before? If you have lost this equipment stolen by someone, they will they will give you this, not cash. But on the other side, mostly the payments will be in cash value. That someone has died, then he covered himself or herself with a life insurance, then there will be payments in financial terms. Again, this principle also says something in the principle. It says no one should profit from insurance. Aye, that's a hard one. No one should profit from insurance. And it makes sense when we are doing calculations under insurance, over insurance. It makes sense when we are doing that. Because as we are listing now, it might not make any sense. But during calculations, when you are looking at the average clause, reinstatement clause, then it makes sense now. Say, oh, this one is not, that's why it's not getting 150,000, but will be compensated with 100,000 because the damage was for 100,000. The damage was for 100,000, but the claim was for 150,000. Why are we not giving this learner 150,000? So this person 150,000? The question, the answer would be, no one should profit from the insurance. We have to give, or the insurance company has to give the actual damage, not what is being shown as a claim of the insurance. So it's where then this principle comes in. And also, as I said, insurance is short-term, assurance is long-term. And your learners must be able to make such differences. I think it's clear, colleagues, and it is straightforward. It is straightforward. And again, when it comes to calculations, make sure that your learners are flowing on this part. Because the scenario could be different. A scenario could show an over-insurance or it will show an under-insurance. Calculations can show these two situations, an over-insurance or an under-insurance, right? When it is an over-insurance, there is a clause that is applicable. When it is an under-insurance, there is also another clause that is applicable. For over-insurance, it will be reinstatement clause. Reinstatement. Reinstatement clause. For under insurance, it will be average clause. Average clause. Right? For now, it might not make sense again until you come to your calculations. Right. Let us look at calculations where you say you have to make a claim. A claim from the insurance company will be equals to insured amount divided by market value all this multiplied by the damage. Right. Colleagues, whether we'll be looking at the over-insurance or under-insurance, this standard formula must be used and understood. And your learners must be able to say whether I have the answer will end up showing me an over-insurance or under-insurance. I have to use the standard formula. You have to understand this. They have to be open and used to this. Right, look at this. And let us say the insured amount is for 100,000, but the market value of the property is let's say 200,000 multiplied by the damage also was for let's say 200,000. The damage was for 200,000. So our answer here, the claim will be 100,000. Colleagues, I'm not into calculations here, but I want to show the terms, the content, and the understanding. We are not just on this 100,000 as the answer, as I said earlier, that as if you are looking at maths calculations. Now, let us look at this. By just looking at these numbers, can I be able to say this is over insurance or under insurance? And can I be able then to say reinstatement clause or purposely or by mistake? So I can quickly tell it's under insurance. That was the first part. The second part is this. The damage is for 200,000, but this person can only claim 100,000. Create a debate on this one and say, is this really fair? Can we say it is fair that this person had a damage that occurred in the house? Maybe the whole roof plus walls was taken by a storm, and when we looked at the cost and damages, it was found that the costs were 200,000, but this person can only claim 100,000. Can this really make sense? Interesting arguments. We know these insurance companies. They are full of tricks, but you come closer now and say, hey, look at this. This person underinsured because the value of the house is 200,000. Why must they give this person 200,000 while he secured or taken the insurance or took the insurance for 100,000? So can you see this is unfair? Oh yes. Though the damage is 200,000, but whatever that is receivable is 100,000. So this is an average that's been given to this person. Not the whole 200,000, but it's given 100. Now, you say, can you see now you have done calculation? Yes. What clause is applicable? Is an average clause. Why average clause? Because it was an under-insurance. So can you see that you are able to go forward in explanation, and you can also go backwards in your explanation, depending that the examiner, which side is he going to use. Earlier we said, every time when you look at under-insurance, the clause that is applicable is average clause. Now we are introducing calculation and say, well, let us calculate now, and look at the calculations. From those calculations, hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Can you just, yes, when I tell you okay with the insurance part, can you just go to other topic?
Specifically which ones?
TUN?
Well, I would definitely do so, but what I was doing here, the whole program, this one, is for low-hanging marks. Marks that can be taken by your Johnny Walkers in your class, those who walked from grade 11 to grade 12. So the focus is to hit on those easy marks that can be taken. That's why I mostly emphasize on ventures, as you may remember earlier. I said there's an emphasis on ventures before coming to other sections, as you said. But I will cover on the other part of the ventures.
Yes.
Come again?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Then our department will be very happy, because meaning that those learners will be able to get 30 marks. Because that's a key part, a starting point. To say 10 distinctions, that's a bonus for you to decorate your CV. So the first part is to hit on the low-hanging marks. I think that's very clear. Yes, that's why I dwell much. I have to do more on this side and seek simple stuff. Right, we'll be going to the next part. Right, any other comment besides this one from other centers as well? Other centers?
Ntshingila.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, in fact, what you're actually doing, you are addressing the progress learners, as you have indicated earlier on.
Excellent, excellent.
Further that, the provincial intervention program, which is this video conference,
Excellent.
is aimed at assisting our T65 schools.
Very good.
Hence, we need to ensure that our learners are able to get those lower hanging fruits, then we can address our high flyers later on.
Excellent. Well said. Well said, my boss in part. Well said, Mr. Simpson. Because the aim of this program, colleagues, is not for high flyers. One, two, it is not for schools that are hitting 90% or 100%. It's to say, how can we go as a group from those 40, 60%? As you might know, last year our subject was a disaster. So hence, a program like this one. I will, through request, as you are saying, I'm coming back next month, if I'm not mistaken. I can be focusing strictly on operation, the O's, business operations, where I will be looking at ventures. I will be looking at human resource and quality of performance, as one colleague has requested. But again, you will see when I do the quality performance, I will be guiding as if the learner is in front of me. I will be doing those based, as Mrs. Simsobi just said now, that the intention, colleagues, is to have those progress learners. Remember, it's a policy, it's legislation, macro environment. If it's macro environment, then it says we have to get a way to adjust and follow the situation as it is. But I've noted It seems as if quality of performance is one of the issues. I'm noting that. I will check on my slides here whether I can touch on that through this minutes that I'm having. But again, I'm emphasizing, this is not a mistake. It's an emphasis for those schools that are T40s, T60s, T whatever, but less than 75 or 80%. So that's the focus. Any other comment, colleagues? I know that I've been talking. It's my one of my exercises to talk. I love talking, man. Any other comment, colleagues? Or question, if it's not a comment. Are you still with me though? Or you have all gone?
Yes.
You are? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So far you have been covered under ventures.
Yes.
All right. Let me ask in this fashion, because if you look at my targeting, I purposely targeted business ventures, and Seth from Umlazi said, when we drill these ventures, we are sure that the learner can get the maximum of 110 marks. You will see that my focus, I didn't shift to other classifications of topics. I was just looking at management, though I didn't do in details because I know that in front of me are not learners, you are my colleagues. But I was touching those areas that I felt a bit challenging, or easy marks that can be corrected by every or any learner. Any part that you just feel that I have to touch on before I conclude the insurance part? Any center? Yes. So it means that you are still fine, colleagues.
Yes, sir, continue.
Okay, thank you. In conclusion, from this side, make sure that your learners understand the terminologies here. Remember, exactly like in TQM. In TQM, if you check your exam guideline, there are 6 terms that they start with. That is not a mistake. Your learners must master those terms. Likewise, when you come here, if you check your exam guideline under this, there are terms that they say specific your learners must be able to talk about. These ones, this one, and what is other one? Oh, the excess. The excess. Your learners must be able to master all these terms. So they just say terminology, meaning that they could be asked in section B, or they can be grouped together in an essay and being asked also where a learner has to show an understanding. So make sure in such situations where you are told terms must be understood, also you do the same thing. You drill those parts, irrespective whether they are numbers, as I'm having numbers here, or they're just explained in isolation. They are very good as well in that part. So you must be sure of that situation. For example, if you talk of an excess, it means it's a portion of the insurance that is not covered by the insurer. When as the insured, you have to pay for it. You pay for it. It is not covered. It's an excess. The amount that you pay before you receive your claim. Before you receive your claim, there is an amount that you have to pay. Right? To create argument again, I normally say to learners, is this really fair? Is this really fair? Because don't teach, let us try to teach colleagues in a way that we create arguments. You know, when they argue, it's stuck to their minds, long-term memory. Is it really fair to say before I claim, I have to pay off something? Is it really fair? Is it any logic in that? And they will give a lot of explanations, but the basic point that you are driving home is that to prevent the insured making those small claims, indeed it is very important to have an excess. So an excess is very important to the insurer because it prevents the insured to make those small claims that they couldn't be sorted. For example, the excess could be the excess could be for 5,000. Let's say something happens to your car and you check that when it was not a major accident, someone was just reversing and hit your indicator. Your indicator is about 100, let's say 200 rands. Really, a normal person can prefer to pay an excess of 500 rand so that a car is fixed by 200 rand. No. There's no side. I would better just do it myself, not include the insurance. So those logic and understanding, put those forward so that they understand exactly. Oh, that's why it's so important to have an excess done by insurance or in an insurance contract. That's just number one. Number two, it also prevents those bogus claims that never existed. You know exactly that if you do a bogus claim, now as an insured, you have to pay off something before you claim. Now you start comparing. I have to fork out 500,000 to get 400,000. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. I would better do it myself. So create logic in that fashion, colleagues. From this part on calculations and linking with the terms, because as I said, it's not about calculations only. It's about giving interpretation. Colleagues, that must be very clear. Don't say to your learners, hey, now you know how to calculate. That's not enough. In fact, you are robbing your kids. To say calculation, they must be able to say in 3.2, if it's 3.2, they must be able to say, is this under insurance or over insurance? And they must be able to support themselves. 3.3, they must be able to say which clause is applicable in the situation. Is it the reinstatement clause or an average clause? Right. When you look at this clause as reinstatement clause, it normally occurs to overinsurance. We understand that where it is fine. But what does it mean? Reinstate. It means earlier it was instated. Now it must be again. It means it has to be put in the same position as it was. No benefit whatsoever. No benefits here. If you think that your claim of 150,000 will be entertained while the damage was 100,000. The insurance company will say, listen here, when you are making a claim of 150,000, but the damage is 150, for sure, this is over insurance, right? What will apply is the reinstatement clause. Will put you in the same position as you were before. Reinstate. We said reinstate. In the same position as you were before. We cannot give you 150,000. Forget. We won't give you. And again, if we give you, we'll be against a principle called indemnity principle. Indemnity principle. What is this principle saying? It says no one should benefit from the insurance. No one should profit. Because this 50,000 more is a profit now. So it is against the principle. So can you see, colleagues, I'm using calculations, but in calculations I'm able to give content. I'm able to give principles. I'm able to give the clause that are applicable. I'm able to say over or under. So calculations, as accounting or maths, no, interpretation. So that's a critical part that we have to master from here. And our resources, when they talk of principles of insurance, they normally talk of 4. But recently, it has been clear that, in fact, if you talk of principles, only 2 principles. We normally talk of 4 in the form of indemnity principle, The second one is security principle. And the third one is utmost good faith. Number 4, insurable interest. Principle. Right. The resources will show this 4. But from last year, colleagues, and this year, mostly 2 areas where we've got several advisors. In fact, it has come to our attention that principles should be only these 2. Principles. What do we mean by principles? Principles are more like rules of the game. They are more like rules of the game. If you say to me, here is soccer. Here is soccer. Soccer has got its own principles. Firstly, there must be 11 players. That's a principle. Then, out of these 11 players, 1 is allowed to handle the ball in an 18 area. All the other 10s are not allowed. Those are the principles. And there will be a person called a referee who will be managing things. That's a principle. When you look at rugby also is got its own principles. In other words, if you don't know those principles, you cannot say you understand rugby. You are lying. And if you want to play in a proper way, you have to play according to rules of rugby. For example, here we said there are 11 players. This side there are 15 players. That's a principle. If you cut to 7, yes, it will be rugby, but it will be called rugby the 7s. It's no longer the normal rugby. And there is no rugby game that's got 11 players. So principles are more like guiding lines, guiding rules of saying, here are the understanding. Likewise, in a insurance, You cannot say, I understand the insurance, but you don't understand the principles. Right? What principles? One of them, indemnity principle. What is it saying? No one should profit from insurance. That's the principle. Even if you are taking them to court, you are taking them to court because you don't understand the principle. So learners must understand that and say, oh, okay. As the indemnity principle, this is what is guiding this principle, called indemnity principle. Number two, this principle says the insurer have to pay for an actual damage, not anything else, the actual damage. If the door was damaged into the house, when someone was trying to break in, they have to replace the door. You replace what was damaged. That's what this principle is saying. Number three, it caters for short-term insurance. So your learners must be able to sing and they play with these things under this insurance. So it's a principle. It's a principle. Can never be deviated. Security principle. Okay. Indemnity was based on we are replacing. Your door was damaged, we replace it with a new door. Right? Security principle. No replacement now. No replacement. But we are compensating, we are paying you a certain amount. For example, if we look at the life cover, there can be no replacement. Your gogo has died. They cannot replace you with another gogo. That gogo has died, is no longer there. So in the Frankabayans, they have to pay a certain amount to you as a person that is going to receive those proceeds from the insurance, from the life cover. But this side, they were replacing. This side, they're not replacing security. They are just putting forward a protection, a security. Should anything happen, this will be paid. So those are the issues our learners have to understand. So can you say that these are more like ground rules, specific policies? Come here. Utmost good faith. Do we really call it a principle? Utmost good faith. What does it say? When you do everything, anything in the insurance contract, you must be faithful. That's what it says. That you must be faithful. Disclose everything. Say everything. Can we call that a principle? It must be. It must be here. It must be here. So that's why currently there is an argument to say, really, or even this one, insurable interest. Insurable interest. I cover what I've got interest on. What belongs to me. I've got interest on that. My car, I've got interest in my car. So I've got insurable interest. Okay? It means then the interest that I'm having must be expressed in financial terms. It cannot be love, just love or hate. We cannot express value in love and hate. So it must be expressed in financial terms. But it must be something that I've got interest on. Oh. Indeed, that thing can be incorporated here. I cannot have a security principle on the life of the next person. I cover someone where I would be touched should he or she passes away. So it is here. So that's why currently there is that argument that in fact, are we having 4 principles or 2 principles? But I believe our bosses in our districts, our managers, subject advisors will lead us on this side. But I have to just put to your attention, not to confuse you, but to say, hey, here is a bone of contention that we are currently having. I'm done with this part. I am done. So if I am done with this part, it means I am done with business ventures. I am done with business ventures. So, and all those 5 topics, we are done with them now. Though I didn't go into detail in each and every part, I was just looking at those areas that I feel they're a bit gray areas. 1, 2, a bit challenging in some areas to us as teachers. 3, they can give learner 34, 35, 37, 39, or 41. That's what we are targeting currently with this teaching. Because of time, I would, because I don't want to rush when we go to business operations. For next 2 weeks, we'll be looking at business operations, specifically the quality of performance and human resources. And I know in quality of performance, the challenge mostly is not on the whole quality of performance, is on the specific area, TQM, Total Quality Management. Remember, TQM is a small section under quality performance. Your business functions, financial function, marketing, all of them, they are forming part of quality management, not TQM. TQM is another section forming that part. But I know in most cases is that new content, which is TQM. Colleagues, I believe I've said a lot. I've said a lot. This side, can you conclude by a comment, by whatever that you want to say, before I say I have come to the end of it? Any questions, any clarity, seeking statements, your additions? Because not that I'm the wise guru on this side. And I was so happy earlier, I had a voice of Mrs. Msomi. I wonder whether she's still around. Mpata, are you still around?
Yes, sir.
I love that part. If my boss is around, for sure, she must have something to say.
Nothing much, Mr. Ntshingila, besides saying thank you very much for the presentation. I understand that since our term 3 topics are these 4,
Yes.
you have covered them adequately, and you have assisted. I want to believe that teachers have been assisted on the strategy that will assist the learners to get those marks, especially the progress learners. Thank you very much,
Very true, very true. And thank you very much, Mpata. Thank you very much, Mrs. Simpson. In fact, that's a main thing. And you will remember, colleagues, in times we do also these radio programs. Even in those radio programs, if it's just during the course of the year, the main focus are those MEOs writing in May, June, or those are struggling. But come the end of the year, then one has to combine the two, the high flyers plus the struggling ones. That's why mostly radio stations give us about 2 or whatever sessions. But for now, let us just say, September is a yardstick to say, how many from your learners will be writing the BS paper? Remember, colleagues, those progressed for now, they may or may not write business studies, but I remember that there is a circular that is there to say a learner that is in grade 12 must write business studies. So that's why you're having this intervention to say every learner, whether progress or not progress, must sit down and write business studies, irrespective of whatever circumstances that they surrounded her progression or passing he or she must be able to write. So we are doing this so that such learners are able to write. Because if the learner is past term 1 and term 2, why not writing the final exam? Thank you, Mphat. Colleagues from your side, any comment, any narrations? I was about ngeke ningasho lutho. Otherwise ngizonibhalela ukuthi angisho lutho. I have to log you that you are not saying anything. No, I'm joking.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ntshingila.
Yeah.
You've covered it well.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. But for a proper progression to the next level, I believe it could be on the 10th of it, but it will be communicated to you. I've just heard now that colleagues are mentioning TQM. Is there any other part that you feel that it must be integrated at that time? Because in times it's better to be centered around you than centered around me and what I think and feel. But okay. Yes.
It's business environment.
Business environment.
Yes.
All right. But again, summing up all business environments, they are about, let's say 3, setting aside sectors.
Yeah.
They are about 3.
Yeah.
It is impossible to say I will do them all. Just imagine looking at strategies. Yes, could be easy on strategies, but just imagine starting from challenges, moving on to the categorization of them 3, developing a strategy, evaluating a strategy. Maybe you can be specific a bit, but it's fine. I would just look at the gray areas again. Right. All right. What could be the second one? It will be business operations, I believe.
Yeah.
Business operations, yeah. Can you stop in these 2?
Yeah. For now.
For now.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. What I would do, colleagues, next week, I would try to start from here, then come to this side. I will tell you why I will end with environments. In the business environments, we've got legislation, and you show me a learner from your previous years that has done very well under legislations. Very few. Remember, the aim of this program is to make learners pass. That's a main. We are looking at the umbrella, the blanket approach to say how do we make the whole of them pass. The quality, you will excel on those ones with your morning classes, your Saturday classes, you excel, it's fine. But these ones, I ever pass, let them pass. So I won't go much on environments based on that reasons. Not to say that they don't have to look at the legislation. The act is simple, because you know the question. Good morning. Here I am again. I am Mr. Ntshingila from JG Zuma High School. I'm here for mostly the business ventures. As you might remember, that business studies has got 4 categories. We've got the business environments, ventures, roles, and operations. So for this morning, the focus will be on 5 topics under the ventures. The investments, your insurance, your management and leadership, your forms of ownership, and finally presentation. Why this choice, colleagues? I made this choice because I feel we've got lots of low-hanging marks here where every learner can pass, because the main focus for this program, the main focus for these presentations is just to make an umbrella pass for everyone. Whether a learner was progress or whatever, they pass. Thank you very much.
Okay, and action.
Colleagues, thank you very much. We have come to the end of it. I would say finally, to consolidate, we're looking at business ventures. Next week, not next week, in the 15th of September, 16th of September, sorry, we'll be looking at business operations. Two topics there, human resources and quality of performance. That will be our main focus. If we do have time, we'll touch base then on business environments. Thank you, colleagues.